May has come to an end and June has just begun, so I want to go over everything I read this past month and everything I plan to read, because May was a great month, but I'm hoping June can be even better. Starting off with May, I started off pretty strong with Wolves of the Calla, which is the fifth book in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. Um, I just, I really enjoyed this for the most part. I don't think it's the strongest Dark Tower book, uh, but I think it's still pretty good. I thought that spending time in Caliburn Sturgis was awesome. I really like this town. I kind of really like the ambiance and the feeling. I like how much time we spend with the quartet, and the fact that this does not feel like a roller coaster ride. This one definitely kind of feels like a bridge between what happened in book 4 and what's going to happen in Song of Susanna. So for me, I appreciated this one, but I did have some issues. I thought the pacing was kind of not as good as previous books. I thought it was just a little too long for the things that happen. I did enjoy the Callahan story, but I kind of wish it had been told just all at once so that we could focus on the other stuff. But besides that, I thought it was a pretty good novel overall. The action sequences were great. The character moments were awesome as always. I love the location and the feeling of the wolves coming down. It felt very Magnificent Seven Samurai, which might have been a huge inspiration for King writing this. I'm not sure, but that's just kind of what it reminded me of. So I gave it an 8.6 out of 10. Overall, thought it was pretty good, but definitely one of the lower ones for me when it comes to the Dark Tower series. Up next, I then read, or reread actually, Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio, which is the first book in the Sun Ear series. Just as good as I remember. I had some hesitations that I was not going to enjoy this as much, but I was totally wrong. I felt like this book really benefited from a reread. I found the fact that I enjoyed it so much was amazing. I was kind of blown away by just how good this was. I felt like the characters felt more fleshed out. I felt like the plot was more interesting and better paced this time around. I found the world building was even better. There were some subtleties I hadn't picked up on and some foreshadowing I hadn't picked up on. So I gave it an 8.8 out of 10. I mean, this book is really good, especially considering that this is a debut novel and that Christopher, admits that, he just kind of wrote it, no outline. Very, very, very impressive. And I cannot wait to read Howling Dark in June. After that, the quality of book dipped. This was the first Stephen King book I wasn't enthralled by. It was still decent, but it was not my favorite, and that was The Long Walk by Stephen King, writing as Richard Bachman. I got some flack when I posted this, saying that I didn't really connect with this. I had at least 2 people be like, "How could you not connect with this? This is one of Stephen King's best books." But I just have to, politely disagree. The Long Walk just did not really work for me. And maybe it was because I did the audiobook and the audiobook narrator wasn't very good, to be honest. But I just did not really enjoy this. I felt like the character work was kind of weak, and it was more focused on themes and ideas more than his traditional stuff. And for some people that works, but I've come to expect Stephen King to be a character first writer and have me connect to them. And while there were definitely moments I felt, dread and sadness for what was going on, overall, I felt kind of unattached. I did think the pacing was good, but, the world didn't feel fleshed out at all. It just kind of was there. The premise is kind of silly. I think, honestly, with the movie coming out, I think I'll enjoy the movie more than the book. Not gonna guarantee that, but that is the general feeling I have. Like this is the perfect thing to translate to a movie and elevate it as a movie. But the book itself, I was not super impressed by. So I gave it a 7.7 out of 10. Probably my least favorite Stephen King book so far. After that, I'm happy to say Stephen King is so back. The next book I read after this was mind-blowingly good. much better than I had anticipated. And for the people who don't like this, there's something wrong with you. And that was Song of Susanna, the 6th book in the Dark Tower series. I thought this was incredible. The pacing in this is awesome. The action is awesome. The character moments are awesome. The world building and the meta commentary and how it connects to our world and the entire King universe, just mind-bogglingly good. I don't think Song of Susanna has a single low point throughout the entire thing. It is incredible how good it is, in my opinion. I know that this is kind of the book in the series that is kind of the most hated. Maybe this and the Dark Tower are kind of like the less loved ones. But for me, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it was so good I put it above Malazan without even getting to the final book. I was like, yeah, this series is better than Malazan. I'll put it up there. I'll put it at my number 2 spot. So yeah, blew my mind. And it has like 2 or 3 of my favorite moments in the entire series, especially the author section. I just thought was awesome. So 9.5 out of 10, easily. After that, I finished the Dark Tower series by Stephen King with the 7th and final book, The Dark Tower. Just everything I wanted in the final book. Great conclusion to this series. Just makes so much sense to me. I know the ending is controversial, but I think this is one of my favorite Stephen King endings, and just endings in fantasy in general. Like, this is, there is no other way that this series could have possibly been finished. I was not spoiled, thank God, about the ending. I came into it totally blind. I came into this entire series totally blind, and there were so many heartbreaking moments throughout this book, and I just thought that all lent to how this story just came to its conclusion. Some of the best moments in fantasy I've read are contained in this book. Some of my favorite sequences in fantasy are contained in this book. And it's an all-time favorite for me. I mean, this is straight up a 10 out of 10 for me, guys. Just everything about this book I liked. I thought the pacing was incredible. I thought that it had the best character moments in the entire series. I thought it had some of the best action sequences in the entire series. I thought thematically it worked brilliantly. I thought the meta stuff was really cool. And I like just how I like how this ends. I like that it's not necessarily a satisfying conclusion, but it's a conclusion that makes sense. So yeah, I gave it a 10, and I was blown away by how much I enjoyed it. And for the final book I read in May, I wanted to kind of do a new release by my favorite fantasy author, and that is, Joe Abercrombie's The Devils. It was exactly what I was hoping for. I know some people on the internet have been like, it's just not as good as First Law, or some people were expecting First Law and they didn't get it from The Devils. But for me, I wanted something funny. I wanted something kind of that felt like a chaotic D&D campaign, and Joe Abercrombie absolutely delivered on that. This is Fantasy Suicide Squad, where all the characters are like these terrible people attempting to do good. I thought that this was a much stronger start than the Blade itself, like by a mile. I like the Blade itself, don't get me wrong, but the plot here was better. I thought the characters here were better. I like the world building and the potential here that it has. I think if Joe Abercrombie can keep up at this level or surpass it, I think that this has a very serious chance to be a better trilogy than the First Law is. I still like the First Law more, obviously, because there's more books. But I love the characters here. I love the story. I love the action. It was so funny. I mean, this is seriously probably the funniest book I've read all year. Like by a large margin, too. Like, this blows Dungeon Crawler Carl out of the water for me personally. Joe Abercrombie's humor just connects with mine so well. And I really enjoyed it. So I gave it an 8.8 out of 10. And I'm ecstatic to read more. And the fact that this is possibly going to get an adaptation in the near future by James Cameron and his company, I'm stoked for, guys. James Cameron is one of my favorite directors, and I think his company does great work. So him and Joe Abercrombie working together writing this movie, it's gonna be awesome. Like when it sees the light of day, it's gonna be so good. Uh, for May book of the month, probably no surprise, but I gave it to The Dark Tower. Just the best book I've read probably all year. My favorite book of all year. This was just like an incredible journey, and I thought that the final book was just exactly what I thought the conclusion needed to be. So, The Dark Tower is going to be my book of the month for May. Just so good. Like it's my second favorite series now. I think it's like The Wheel of Time, The Dark Tower, and Malazan. Like those are like peak fantasy series for me. Austin Ard's up there, A Song of Ice and Fire's up there, obviously, but those three like really stand out to me. So yeah, just I'm so happy to have read the series and to have come to its conclusion and enjoyed it. I absolutely understand what Stephen King was going for. We are on the same wavelength the entire series, and I'm happy to report that the final book was not a letdown at all. As for June, I got some plans, and I'm already kind of into them. First of all, I've already read my first book of the month for June. I meant to get this video out earlier, but I've been very busy. And that was Finders Keepers by Stephen King, which is the second book in the Bill Hodges trilogy. I just did a review of this earlier today, if you want to check out the full thing. But just exactly what the sequel should have been. Better character work, better plot, in my opinion. I really like how Stephen King analyzes literature in this one, and just the general ideas of what he throws out there. Despite it not necessarily being as, I don't know, like the stakes were not as high in this one as they were in Mr. Mercedes. I found myself more emotionally involved with this one, and I felt like the plot here was a lot stronger, and the character work was a lot stronger, and I was much more involved in what was happening, especially the dynamic between the main character, Peter, and the bad guy, Morris. I think that's what his name was. Doesn't matter. I really like that, and I felt like the first section with the back and forth between time jumping, that was awesome, and the second section built on that, and then the final section just wrapped it all together in this nice little bundle. My only complaint was the fake out death. That was it. I won't say of who, but I thought that was kind of lame. But besides that, I thought it was a very good book, so I'm going to give Finders Keeper 8.8 out of 10. As for the rest of this month, right now I'm 40% into Dune. This is my third or fourth reread of this book, and this will be my second review of it. I've done a review on my TikTok of Dune long time ago, like at the start of my internet and book talk reviews. It was kind of the thing that actually had people follow me, was when the second movie came out. I went and reviewed the book and the movie together, and did a bunch of like lore videos on what Dune is. But I'm about 40% into my reread right now, and this is just amazing. It's just as good as I remember. In fact, it's probably better than I remember. Dune really is, like, I think my favorite story I've ever read. It's like this or A Memory of Light, but A Memory of Light has like the entire Wheel of Time behind it, while Dune just stands all on its own. It's the first book in its series. So I think that kind of tells you just how good this stuff is. I mean, the politics, the ecology, the philosophy, the kind of focus on what it means to be human, and free will, and kind of how we focus on ourselves and overcoming our base natures in order to like take that next evolutionary step as a race. Really, just like Frank Herbert was so ahead of his time, and the stuff that he writes about AI and how that's kind of becoming a reality right now is scary. It's so scary. But this dude, I mean, really, just a visionary in every sense of the word. I genuinely don't know if there will ever be a science fiction book or fantasy book that I hold in higher regard than Dune. Maybe one day I will read something where I'm like, yeah, that's better than Dune. But 40% in, and I'm just reminded of the fact of why I love it so much. Also, just a note, but I think the audiobook's really good. I think it's my favorite audiobook. I love all the voice acting and all the stuff. I know that's maybe not popular opinion or whatever, but yeah, just such a good book. Cannot wait to re-review it and just gush about how great of a book it is. After that, I'm actually not in the middle of anything. The next book I plan to read, this might change, is A Brief History of Seven Killings. This is not a fantasy or science fiction book. This is going to be more of a like contemporary fiction, I guess. It examines like a bunch of killings during the 1970s or 1980s. One of them is based around a very famous, and I'm forgetting his name now, but he's a very famous Jamaican singer. I don't know. This was recommended to me by a friend, and I read the synopsis or like the whatever like Audible has, like their synopsis of it, and I was like, oh, that sounds really good. That sounds right up my alley. It sounds kind of like a crime thriller meeting geopolitics while also examining like real world history and some major cultural movements for Jamaicans, African Americans, and Black people in general. Right up my alley, man. And I'm trying to explore some more kind of like postmodern fiction and more non-genre fiction, stuff that's not focused on just being fantasy or science fiction or thriller, but stuff that really examines culture in general. So don't be surprised in the future if I'm reading some really weird stuff you've probably not heard of, or some stuff you probably wouldn't expect me to read. You know, I have a friend right now he's really pushing me to read Thomas Pynchon and all of his stuff. So expect that review in the future at some point. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be really good. It seems like it's going to be really good anyways. After that, I will be going back to science fiction and fantasy, my cozy spot, with Howling Dark. I'm so excited to reread this because Howling Dark was kind of my point where I fell into obsession with Sun Eater. I thought Empire Silence was good, but a little overrated from what I had read online. Versus going to Howling Dark, I didn't know anything about this book. I didn't even read like the description. I think I just pressed play on Audible when I came to it, and coming back to it, I'm interested to see how I feel, because I think that this is where like the series really takes off. Like it's like this and on. I thought all of them were like 9 out of 10s or higher. Like I just thought that Howling Dark was one of the best in the series. And I'm curious to see if I like it even more this time. I think I will. Like, don't be surprised if the rating jumps up by a bit, because I remember this book very fondly, and if Empire Silence is anything to go by, I'll probably like it even more. After that, I will finally read Brothers of the Wind by Tad Williams, which is the novella Austenard that takes place between, well, it's actually a prequel, but you're supposed to read it between Empire of Grass and Into the Narrow Dark, as it explains some stuff. Really, really actually finally looking forward to reading this. Dark Tower kind of took over my life, and it didn't let me read anything else, but now that I finally have finished the Dark Tower, I can finish Austenard, which has just become one of my all-time favorite fantasy series. In fact, if it keeps up at this level and it concludes as good as I'm hoping it will, I think it'll go right under the Dark Tower for favorite. In fact, it could possibly be better than the Dark Tower depending on how strongly it finishes. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. I feel like the novella has a really cool idea, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how I receive it. And finally, for my last book in June, I am going to read Into the Narrow Dark by Tad Williams, which is the third book in the Last King of Austenard series, and it's like part 1 of 2 for the final book in the series. Into the Narrow Dark and the Navigator's Children was originally supposed to be a single novel, but Tad Williams is a mad lad, and he had to break it up into two very, very large books. So I'm going to read the first one in June and hopefully immediately start the second one in July. And I think that it's going to be incredible. What Tad Williams has set up so far in the Ostenard saga, especially Last King of Ostenard, is nothing short of just some of the best fiction you'll read. Just gonna put it out there, like it's seriously just some of the most incredible fantasy I think you'll ever read if you give it a chance. I am such an advocate for this series. I'm such an advocate for many fantasy and science fiction series. I try very hard to promote everything I like and hope that you guys like it too. But Ostenard really is one of those series that means so much to me because it just seems underrated. It seems constantly underrated. It's getting more traction now, and I'm happy about that. But I would like for this to be like the next big thing. I would like for this to be adapted and for people to get their hands on this and for people to recognize the genius that is Tad Williams, because I think he is one of, if not the best, working fantasy authors out there. Like, it's the fact that this guy is not like Brandon Sanderson, George R.R. Martin level famous, to me is a shame. And I think Ostenard deserves to be in that conversation. It deserves to be in the conversation of stuff like A Song of Ice and Fire, Lord of the Rings, Stormlight, that kind of stuff. And I think it's better than a lot of that, by the way. Just to put that out there. So I'm really looking forward to this next book. It's a chunk, so it's going to probably take me some time. But yeah, I think it's going to be really good. So wrapping this video up, here's my thought, my prediction for Book of the Month for June. And that is either going to be Dune, if I count it as because it's a reread. It's always hard to tell if I want to count it or not. But if I count it, it'll probably be Dune, because Dune's my favorite story of all time. Or it'll be Into the Narrow Dark by Tad Williams. I mean, duh. I just feel like those two are going to be the best books I read all month. So that is my prediction. Could I be wrong? Totally. Could I end up reading something else somewhere in here? You guys know by now, I do not stick to my TBR at all. I plan these things out, I try to, and then I get distracted by the new pretty thing. So will I read all these books? I don't know. But I'm thinking that June is going to be a very, very good month for reading. So thank you guys for watching. As always, comment down below your May reads and June TBR. What was your favorite book of May? Did you read some bangers or did you not? And what do you have planned for June? Some good stuff, hopefully. But yeah, until my next video, which will probably be my Dune review, I'll see you guys later.